In the news tonight, the international search and rescue operations for survivors in the Nepal earthquake enter the final stage of 48 hours, and aid distribution is being delayed by both terrain and customs-related issues. Canada pledges $139 million for Iraq, Syria, Jordan and Lebanon to help the region deal with the overwhelming refugee crisis triggered by the rise of Daesh terrorist group. And Britain's Duchess of Cambridge gives birth to a baby girl, hers and Prince William's second child and the fourth in line to the throne. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. We begin with the continued fight against terrorism, where the US-led coalition staged 24 strikes on Daesh targets in Iraq and Syria over the past 24 hours. 17 of the strikes were in Syria near the cities of Raqqa, Kobani, Al-Hasaka and Deir ez-Zor, hitting terrorist units, fighting positions, vehicles and other targets. And in Iraq, 7 airstrikes near Mosul, Ramadi, Biji, Tal Afar and Fallujah hit units, buildings, fighting positions and a supply cache. The death toll from an airstrike by US-led forces yesterday on the northern Syrian province of Aleppo has risen to 52, including 7 children. The British-based Observatory for Human Rights said the death toll was the highest civilian loss in a single attack by US-led coalitions since it started air raids against militant groups in Syria, such as Daesh. Meanwhile, fighting continued today between government forces and rebels in Latakia. The violence follows advances in neighboring Idlib province by the hardline Ahrar al-Sham group and Syria's Al-Qaeda wing Nusra Front, as well as other allied fighters. Syria's state news agency said the army carried out overnight strikes on Nusra positions in Idlib. Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper announced $139 million for Iraq, Syria, Jordan and Lebanon to help the region deal with the overwhelming refugee crisis triggered by the rise of Daesh terrorist group. The money is in addition to the $67 million Canada has already committed to Iraq for measures such as food relief and emergency shelter. The announcement came during a surprise trip Harper made to Iraq today, in which he met with Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi in Baghdad and discussed with him means of countering Daesh. Canada has around 70 special forces operating in northern Iraq and has also provided 6 jets to take part in US-led bombing missions against Daesh. After meeting Abadi in Baghdad, Harper flew to Erbil and met with the Kurdish President Masoud Barzani and other Kurdish officials. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said Yemen can avoid ending up a failed state. He added that the verdict isn't in yet, despite fighting in the center of the southern city of Aden and the UN's warning of a humanitarian disaster. Speaking in Colombo, Sri Lanka, Kerry added that the U.S. is working with the UN and Gulf states to start peace negotiations between Yemen's warring parties. If peace negotiations between the Yemeni government and Houthi rebels took off, then Yemen has the opportunity to hold itself together, he added. The U.S. Secretary of State expressed hope that more aid can reach Yemen, while a Saudi-led air campaign tries to restore Yemen's internationally recognized president. The international search and rescue operations for survivors in the Nepal earthquake entered the final stage of 48 hours, announced by the Nepalese government and the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs at a meeting yesterday morning. So far, 6,659 people were killed and more than 14,000 injured in the quake that struck Nepal last week. The last survivor was a 15-year-old boy rescued 2 days ago after being buried under debris for over 130 hours. Meanwhile, Nepalese residents were getting measles vaccinations at health centers to protect themselves and their children against a possible outbreak in the aftermath of the quake. The World Health Organization and partner groups have been deploying teams to affected areas to give vaccinations, medications and food supplies to the victims who have been displaced from their homes. Though they expect to see critical situations, already there is high chances of an outbreak of diarrhea and other illnesses.
With this situation where you have poor water and sanitation, displaced populations that are mobile, in a way, moving, the chances of an outbreak happening is still there and maybe larger.
On the other hand, head of the United Nations World Food Programme said aid distribution in Nepal has been delayed by both terrain and customs-related issues. Relief material has been held up at the country's only international airport because of customs bottlenecks. Nepal lifted import taxes on tarpaulins and tents yesterday, but a Home Ministry spokesman said all goods coming in from overseas had to be inspected. Furthermore, Nepali government officials said efforts to step up the pace of delivery of relief material to remote areas were frustrated by a shortage of supply of trucks and drivers, many of whom had returned to their villages to help their families.
We are working against the clock, and that clock is set by the monsoons. Our failure to reach those populations before the monsoons would eliminate any ability to provide them with the shelter, food, and other needs. With a country that has never dealt with a crisis at this level before, that we overcome the political bottlenecks that allow for the operational organizations like WFP to ensure that we bring in the right tools, whether those tools are opportunities to streamline the customs system, working with the government to prioritize the airplane landings as well as takeoffs.
Here at home, a U.S. ambassador to Jordan, Alice Wells, said that development in Jordan has been a priority for the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, for more than 60 years. The ambassador's remarks came at a meeting that focused on USAID projects in Irbid Governorate in northern Jordan that also tackled best means to expand services and future aid in the water, health, and educational fields. Wells described Jordanian-U.S. ties as strong, noting that the two countries can rely on each other as allies and partners.
Thank you for your expression of support for the U.S. assistance. As you know, we've increased our assistance to $1 billion a year, and soon we will be announcing a third historic loan guarantee to Jordan, which will also help Jordan avoid hundreds of millions of dollars in interest payments. I think we have been struck, as I said in my remarks, by the generosity and kindness of the Jordanian people who have assumed a disproportionate burden, and we recognize that disproportionate burden. We're working with the international community and with the government of Jordan through the Jordan Response Plan to encourage very focused assistance from the international community to respond to the key needs that the government has identified in water and education and health, particularly since the host communities have absorbed the brunt of this burden, particularly in the northern governorate. So more needs to be done, but what I can promise is that the United States, both bilaterally and in its efforts in reaching out to other countries, will continue to urge a generous response, to reciprocate the unprecedented generosity of the Jordanian government and people.
It's a girl. Britain's Duchess of Cambridge gave birth to a daughter this morning, hers and Prince William's second child. The baby princess will be fourth in line to the throne behind her brother George, Father William and grandfather Prince Charles, pushing her uncle Prince Harry down a place in the royal hierarchy. The name of the baby will be announced in due course, but current favorites include Charlotte, Alice, Victoria and Elizabeth. Slightly longer odds are available on Diana, Eleanor and Alexandra. So what will it be?
The announcement on an easel at the front of Buckingham Palace that makes it official. Britain's Duchess of Cambridge, the wife of Prince William, gave birth to a daughter Saturday. The baby, their second child, weighed 8 pounds 3 ounces. Kensington Palace says William was present at the birth and Her Royal Highness and child are both doing well. Outside the hospital in West London, a ceremonial town crier made the announcement to waiting media gathered for that all-important first photo. Well-wishers outside reacted with delight and were hoping for a tribute to William's late mother when the name is decided.
I'm ever so pleased. I mean, Princess Diana, William's mother, always wanted a little girl, so I think William should put Diana's name in there somewhere to honour his late mother.
I'm very excited and I like the name of Diana.
And Prince George has got a little sister now, so that's fantastic. They've completed their family, boy, girl.
The Duchess gave birth at 8:34 a.m. local time, some 2.5 hours after having been admitted. Both families of the couple have been informed, including the baby's great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth. The new baby will be fourth in line to the throne after Charles, William and her older brother George.
And almost 12 hours after giving birth, the Duchess of Cambridge left hospital as she and Prince William presented their new daughter to a cheering crowd of well-wishers. Football legend Diego Maradona, on a visit to Jordan, toured today the baptism site and Mount Nebo. Maradona and his family are visiting Jordan for the first time upon an invitation from His Royal Highness Prince Ali ibn al-Hussein. Yesterday they visited Petra, saying had they known before how beautiful Jordan was, they would have done this trip earlier. And tomorrow, Maradona will be attending the SoccerX Asia Forum at the Dead Sea, a two-day football event that will provide a platform for networking and knowledge exchange between East and West. In an exclusive interview with News at 10, Farah Ajlouni, Maradona talked about his admiration for Jordan and its people while reiterating his endorsement of His Royal Highness Prince Ali's candidacy for FIFA presidency.
Historic visit for Jordan with Maradona visiting the holy sites where Jesus Christ was baptized, and we would like him to share with us his impressions on his visit to Jordan. ¿Nos puedes dar tus impresiones sobre la Jordania y cualquier mensaje que quisieras dar a los jordanos?
Solamente agradecimiento.
I would like to thank Jordanians. We are still traveling around Jordan and received warmth from all Jordanian people, just like in Petra yesterday. And I agree, all Jordanians. And I'd like to add that we will fight to win the presidency of FIFA with Prince Ali, because Blatter has done enough. He already damaged the football. Even the leaders of FIFA realize that Blatter cannot lead the FIFA. Thank you very much, and I agree, all Jordanians, and this will not be my last trip to Jordan. I will come back because we will work closely with the Princess Haya and the Prince Ali for the football to become transparent without corruption, because today FIFA is corrupted.
And on Jordan hosting the Women's FIFA final next year, Maradona joked that even if he forgot about it, his wife, also a football player, will make sure to wake him up and bring him to Jordan. In the Spanish La Liga, Luis Suarez scored his first hat-trick for Barcelona as the Catalan side recorded a stunning 8-0 victory over Cordoba to move a step closer to their 5th La Liga title in 7 years. Ivan Rakitic opened the floodgates with a goal in the 42nd minute. Lionel Messi scored 2 goals, and the rest came from Neymar and Gerard Piqué. The win sees Barca move 5 points clear at the top of the league table, ahead of second-placed Real Madrid, who are now facing Sevilla, and they are leading so far. Cordoba, however, remain rooted to the bottom of the league table with just 20 points from 35 games. And finally, a quick look at the weather. Cool in most regions tonight and fair in the Jordan Valley with northwesterly light to moderate winds. As for tomorrow, a slight rise in temperature is expected, creating fair conditions in the hilly areas and hot in the Badia and the Jordan Valley with northwesterly moderate to brisk winds. In the Gulf of Aqaba, it will also be hot, while winds will be northerly moderate to fresh and the seas calm. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. The international search and rescue operations for survivors in the Nepal earthquake enter the final stage of 48 hours, and aid distribution is being delayed by both terrain and customs-related issues. Canada pledges $139 million for Iraq, Syria, Jordan and Lebanon to help the region deal with the overwhelming refugee crisis triggered by the rise of Daesh terrorist group. And Britain's Duchess of Cambridge gives birth to a baby girl, hers and Prince William's second child and the fourth in line to the throne. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Alia Tupan. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.